Good afternoon. Hi, 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 hi. Yes, Karen, you are first love, my friend. Thank you for being here first. Richard, hello. Lovely to see you. Lovely to have you here. Um, Hope you are all staying comfortable in your weather zones. It's a wee bit chilly here in New England. I'm a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of my neighbors, people in my Facebook group, they're all talking about burst pipes. Um, my landlord, plus just history being in old houses, I know to leave the water dripping a little bit and open up the cabinets, especially at night. Um, so hopefully, I know it's an old house, but the pipes won't burst. So fingers crossed for me. And I hope that's for you too. And yeah, it's pretty nippy. It's pretty nippy. It's keeping me on my toes. Um, and yeah, leave the water trickling, Karen. I know. I know. Richard, you did you get a lot of snow too in your neck of the woods? I mean, you go west of the Mass Pike and you have a whole different weather zone. Um, so definitely today, there's a lovely woman who works in a school system. I'm not going to talk about the school because it would indicate these who these kids are. But she brings her kids to the dog park in the spring, summer, and fall, and they help clean up and they do a whole bunch of stuff. Well, she brought them today, and they created tunnel pathways for the dogs. Mine had a field day because they're way taller than my dogs. I couldn't find them half the time, but they were running through those mazes like nobody's business. They were so happy. I'm going to tilt the camera. So we've got, can you see these two chuckleheads? They're plumb tuckered out. Um, and, but it's kind of, we talk about sort of the kindness of strangers. These kids, they plow on in. Hey, Bonnie. Um, Thank you for being here. And I know Colorado is just throwing a curveball for everybody. So, all right. One of the things I'm trying not to do is to touch my nose during these things, but I can't tell if the cold is coming or going, and so I noticed it on Tuesday night. I was a little bit nasally, and then of course the tears. But thank you guys for being here. So many blessings to everybody, and this is going to be fun today, I think, because it's sort of piggybacking on everything that we've talked about um, over the last month, kicking off 2026, because in 2025, we focused on the 12 universal laws of the universe, and we focused on the four agreements and sort of, intentions and attitudes and tapping into what makes us better people. And by us being better people, can we influence the people around us? So I'm just watching the comments as well. So my eyes are skewing back and forth. So um, I don't want to miss anybody. Um, do do do. I know these damn pups. So I chose for the word for today, my journaling prompt. I don't know if anybody here is participating in my word of the day or my phrase of the day or whatever. But I chose giggling or giggles because I'm walking these dogs. And I swear to God, if anybody is familiar with the Disney movie Aristocats and watching those two ducks, do, 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 do. My pups, when they walk, their little behinds do that. And playing in the snow, walking up the street, some neighbors really did a great job of plowing their sidewalks. And hysterical. Karen, that's so great. You're using the oracles to journal as prompts. I love that. I've been doing that in addition, but where's my thing? Hold on. I want to show you. I have a really nice another deck, but it's upstairs. I'll bring it down. But I'm doing no, can you see? My camera. Hold on. Let me stay still. Ask Your Guides by Sonia Choquette. And so I've really enjoyed these oracle cards. They don't really say very much. You have to actually go to the book oy, they're so new, it's hard to sort of bend them. Um, and I've used them, and I have to say, along with so you guys have you all know Elizabeth from the More Intuitive Me. I've had her pull couple of cards for me in the past, and they're usually right on point on things that I either know or am aware of. Well, these cards, if I pull something out right now, and I'm just going to do that, son of a gun, it says community. I'm not lying, people. It says community. You can't see it. It's the bright light. Hold on. I'm going to just move this light for a second and see. Can you see community? I have one of those little ring lights on my laptop so that I don't turn green on everybody. So if you go to community in the book, of course, I forgot what number that was. 56. Oh, to be 56 again. All right, hold on. 53, 4, 5, and 6. I'm just going to read this to you guys before we dive in. So it says community, receptivity, invitation, availability, and vulnerability. Now, I didn't know this, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of this today. So, holy macaroni. The timing of feeling like a fish out of water and different from others is ending. Your runner guides can connect you to kindred spirits, like-minded others, and your true soul community. We all need people in our lives who get us, who understand our inner world and mirror, value, and affirm who we are. Those people are about to show up in your life. And there's a whole bunch more, but holy banana cakes. It's amazing. So I'm really grateful, right? So yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm coming. Who's yapping? That is so cute. It as the ring-tailed lemurs in Madagascar walk just like the cats. Yes, with big long tails back and forth. Got it on video. Wow. Karen says Elizabeth has always hit the mark for you. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I enjoy her interpretation. Um, uh, yeah, I do see why you love Oracle cards. You can't make this shit up. And then Karen says, goodness, I better slow down so others get a word in edgewise. You just talk amongst yourselves. So as we talk, so as I jump in, for January, the goal, the summary, since this is the last one in January, the focus has been coming home to yourself, right? And both emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and it's sort of focused when we talked initially. And I'm sorry, I feel like my computer's bouncing. I think I kicked the table. It's, the intention is to ground our own body, our truth, our presence. Ben Bacon Bits. Hello. Lovely to see you as well. And everybody behind the scenes. And don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And so, the grounding became the foundation for managing our emotions, staying centered instead of reacting, right? So responding, and returning to our own voice, which is where we're going to go today, which is, I want to think about the right way of articulating this. But when it comes to reclaiming your voice, I've talked about how as a child, and this is for everybody, and this is not a blaming. So most parents, I'm going to preface this by saying most parents, they do the best that they can, right? But They also, based on your ethnicity, so whether you're Italian, Greek, Irish, Polish, Indian, Pakistani, um, German, I'm trying to go through them all, Latin American, um, Jewish, any cultural influence. Um, there are a set of guidelines that our family sort of puts on us. Oh, you need to do this. You have to go to college. You have to, come out making money. No, you can't do this, that, and the other thing. And those voices become your voice. You don't know if it's your opinion or not. That when you grow up and someone is a staunch left, right, up, down, whatever their opinion is, the family gravitates to the leader of the family, right? That's how we learn behaviors. When you see your parents interact with other people, whether they're within the same boundary, so in my case, it was Italian family, um, there's no shame or shade. We were very vocal. Um, you know, we would bust people's chops. My family would, you know, we called it bust balls. So it's not very pretty. It's not very ladylike. But, we're very, oh, we just talked about you, Elizabeth. Welcome. So, Elizabeth, we talked about you saying that you do very great, good readings and that we were raving about you. So, hello. Um, and so, welcome and thank you for being here. All right, hold on. Ben's saying hello. Bonnie's saying ba ba ba. Richard said, I sometimes find it fun to respond in someone else's voice, like perhaps Deepak Chopra. Ha ha. I forgave my parents when I realized they were not nurtured themselves, so they didn't know how to nurture you. Yes. And Ben says, yes, some authors call those narrators. We adopt those voices and even think they're ours. 100%. Gilderanda. I'm going to sneeze, people. Hold on. Phew. Oh, I thought I could get to the mute button, but I guess I didn't. I apologize for that. Okay. So just reading the comments. So, yeah, I think that, as we talk about this and we incorporate those goals of grounding ourselves, having faith in who we are, building confidence in my case, in my own voice. I want to share what that actually looks like in real life with family, with friends, with colleagues, with bosses, just reclaiming your voice. It's not just this out there ideal, it's a lived practice. So come on with me. Let's see. I just want to check the comments. And so Bonnie says, that was my dad, and I realized why he was the way he was. He did the best with what he knew. So, and I've shared this before, right? I went to college. My dad wanted me to come out with a profession that was going to support me. I wanted to be a social worker, and there was no way he was going to allow me to be a social worker. If I were a social worker today, I probably would have my doctorate. I would have continued on, and he'd have a doctor in the damn family. But he was set in his beliefs in his way. And as the years went on, when I wanted to buy a house, you can't buy a house by yourself. How are you going to pay for it? What are you going to do? Blah, 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 blah. All these voices. Now, to my credit, I bought the damn house anyway, but I still listened to it for almost 20 years of him berating me for buying that house. Let's see. Elizabeth saying, I don't know what the conversation is, but I agree with Bonnie. My dad did with what he had. So we're talking about, Elizabeth, finding our voice, reclaiming our voice, and not always having it be our parents' voice. So, or our sisters, or our aunts, or our uncles, or our cousins, or our brothers, whomever's an influence in our life, right? So, when we think about our immersion now, our awakening, our acknowledgement that we get to be who we are, you don't have to like it, but we are who we are. And it doesn't mean that I have to shout to be heard. In my family, I had to shout. I argued, I got sassy, sometimes mean, because you needed to hear me. I was trying to convey a message. And what I will say is, it wasn't being received, and I didn't have enough confidence in myself, in my truth, and in my own opinion. So I was constantly, think of a Pac-Man, all these people. It was gobbling up my voice. I have a big mouth. I spoke loudly, but I might as well been doing the Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 because that's all anyone heard me say. Um, I was going to be an actress, and my dad said, hell no. Yeah, how about no? I know. Both my sisters wanted me to be actors, but I got pushed down by my parents. See, those voices we pick up on can be the most limiting voices we ever encounter. And I agree. And this is really, it's hard. It's really hard. Hey, Mish, thank you so much for being here, not being here. And we appreciate your presence. So, grounding is our foundation. Reclaiming our voice is the expression, and faith or confidence are the fuel, right? And when you get those together, you're not going to abandon yourself. And look, this is a common practice for me, because until my dad died last May, I his voice, I had to work really hard not to let his voice be the loudest voice in my life. And he wasn't trying to be anything but his definition of loving. Notice how I said that, because it wasn't my definition of loving. I just had the realization, why is it so hard for me to get curious on my own feelings? And it dawned on me that I Latin parents, and they were always like, stop asking so many questions. And Mish says, I just learned recently about the double blind. My God, it explains so much. Yes. And Ben says, this is where meltdowns come from, not from anger, but from not feeling safe, not feeling in control, or not being heard. You get any two of those together, and whoa, hello, Nelly. And that's what we're talking about. Right. And this is why it matters in this month with the theme that we're talking about, because it's really about, well, for me, it's who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? Is it my voice? What do I want to feel? What do I want to stand for? And we've talked about this. When before my heart event, so when my mom was really sick and then she died. Look, it was a come to Jesus moment for me, and that's why I took a sabbatical after I had gotten fired. It was healthcare industry wasn't about healthcare. It wasn't about the kind of heart that I had, and I needed a sabbatical. Unfortunately, all the chemicals in my brain went fakakta. We don't need to rehash that. But I came into Reiki. I started studying Reiki, energy healing, other practices to see, where I fit in. I started looking into crystals. Now I have a whole bunch of crystals because I think they're pretty, but I can't tell you, if they are going to do anything energetically. But I love them, and they have energy. Everything has energy. So, guys, I'll come back to the chat. I don't want to lose my train of thought. And I just freaking did. Okay, so, I studied that. And when I was trying to explain to my dad about learning Reiki, he went to his sister, who is a born again charismatic Catholic. whole different story. And she said I was going to the devil. So that's all my father needed to hear. So there was no more respect for my word and my opinion. And I think in a way I was so entrenched in anger towards the world, but towards my dad, that I was like, F you, I'm going to study this and I'm going to do it. And so I just won't share it with you. So I want to pause and just rewind a second. Yes, charismatic Catholics, Ben, that would require me literally breaking out my Merlot. And I'm not even kidding. And there's a reason for that. And that's another story. I think I'm going to talk about that at some point. Let me write that down. Because if I don't write it down, Ben, I'm not going to remember. Charismatic Catholics. And, I valued the elders in my family. There were a lot of them on my dad's side. I valued differing opinions and thought that I knew more. Somehow I was blessed with wisdom and could impart it to everybody I ever met. And, as we get older, we all find out we really didn't know squat and we're still struggling. But I was at a point that I needed something else and I wanted to be true to me. The intention was to make my beautiful house a functioning bed and breakfast. I had all these ideas of what I was going to do with this bed and breakfast. The sorrow, the grief, the everything paralyzed me. And I was, and then the heart event. And it wasn't possible anymore. Selling that house, giving up that dream, that version of the dream. I want to correct myself because the dream's not over. But in that house, in that space, it's gone. That was another loss. But because I had the heart attack or heart event, there was still that joy in my heart. Like, well, I'm here. I'm blessed. Look out. I'm taking names. I'm happy, all this kind of stuff. And it was almost like I had one of my brothers that was there for me because after the event, my comprehension was really low. I was very slow. We had to work with lawyers and they were speaking to me and I couldn't understand. So over time, I'm sort of back to normal-ish. If I had to do something really hard, I would ask somebody else to be there with me so that I didn't misunderstand. But I really wanted to tune into what is it that I want? What makes me tick? What's my voice? What's my opinion? I have some really smart friends. They would say something and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Then somebody else would say something and it wasn't the opposite, but it was different. I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, that's it. I'm like, Teresa, what the hell? Do your research and formulate your own opinion. My voice isn't just a sound. It's a vibration. It's identity. So when you reclaim your voice, right, it's your boundaries. It's my emotional truth. It's giving me permission, self-permission. And I belong in whichever avenue I choose. Now, some of my research, when I was thinking about reclaiming your voice, my voice, ancestrally, ethnically, and I think most men would probably agree, there have always been, I'm not going to have the right word, so bear with me on this, but there are gender roles, right? Women, this was your box. You didn't jump out of that box, and men did this, kind of the hunter-gatherer thing. And I come from that generation. I'm in my 60s, so it's not like I had parents that were born in the 70s. So this is sort of um, ancestrally or gender-based ideology of who we are and where we come from. So I want to just pop into the chat for a second and see if we're on the same page or if I'm sort of talking out my bum. All right. Um, Mish says IKR, she was so spoiled on Little House. Oh, okay. Nellie, got it. Bum, 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 bum. And then Mish says, I think a lot of us in the village communities in the last few years have struggled hard with this. And I agree. And for anybody listening, what we mean by the village is it's a series of creators that have gotten together. And we do collaborative YouTubes, lives, especially during holidays, so people aren't alone. But there's more to come with the village. All right. All right. Let's see. Merlot, I have some on the counter. Way to go, Bonnie. Arnold Horseshack voice. Great subject. I have experience. Mish says, I don't know. I think I knew much before the world conditioned it out of me. I would also agree with that. I would agree with that. I think what happens, and we've had these conversations, and I follow so many creators that are energetically centered. And we did know stuff, and then our third eye gets shut down, or our intuition. We're like, nah, we're going to ignore that. That's probably not real because it sort of got beat out of us. And one of the things that I've said in the past, and I think I've said it on Jimena's channel too, when people criticize, well, you're lighting candles and you're burning incense. And I want to say, have you been to a Catholic church? They have candles, they burn incense, they walk up and down the aisle, spewing it everywhere. You want to pass out. There's rituals, it's ritualistic. It's to embody something they're trying to communicate to you, but it has no real significance. It's man made. We burn candles. I burn candles. I have them behind me. Can you see some of these? They're battery operated. But we have them because it creates an ambiance. I burn Palo Santo because I do believe that I want to clear the energy in the room of something that had happened previously. And I want clean juju in my house, All right. Let's see. I used to be sharp myself, but now I get confused with documents. It's true. I'm sorry. It's true. I miss that me. Well, let's get her back. Have you seen Amish? They all look like ZZ Top. Yes, Elizabeth. The beauty, look, I was a little girl. I wanted to be a nun for 8 years. And after that, I really thought I could. And then I went to high school, which was a private school, and it was an all boys school. And that sort of went out the window because I'm like, ooh, boys. Can't have one of those when I'm a nun. And I didn't even know what that meant, but I probably would want to go back and become a nun. I struck out in the other area. But the concept of creating rituals, the concept of holding your voice to be true, not the priest, the monsignor, the cardinal, the bishop, the pope. I don't need their condemnation for my thought process. I don't need my parents to limit my thinking. What would have been great is, any of the elders in my life saying, well, I don't really understand what that is. So if you really want to do that, if you feel strongly about becoming a social worker, have a game plan. Maybe go for your doctorate. I get that my parents didn't understand that. I get my father didn't know that. Um, and that's on me for not sticking up for me. Um, that's where we're coming to now. All those years, all those other voices dictating what we should or shouldn't be. Back to the chat. Hold, please. Uh, I only go to mass every once in a while now. And what I noticed most of the time was the elements of coercive control in some of the rituals. Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I used to love going to church. The stonework of our churches where I grew up, and the mystery. And I really felt like, well, when they say, "Hey God, it's me, Margaret," I used to be like, "Hey God, it's me. I'm here. Like I can't. You're not outside of this building, but I'm here." And I think that that influences my parents and my parents' parents. There are stories we could tell that would be like a 5-part episode on just the history of my family and the beatings that my father and his siblings used to get in school in front of the priests, because you listened to the priest, and if you didn't, the father, my grandpa, would drag them to school and beat them in front of in front of the other kids. And I'm not kidding. So, where do it, some of that is just, it's heartbreaking. So for most of us, what we're hoping to do, it's for me, in reclaiming my voice, it's to become healing, right? I want to heal. I want my voice to matter to me. So not too long ago, someone criticized might be the wrong word, commented that I have gained weight. Now, we've had this conversation in this channel before. I have a freaking mirror, people. I know I've gained some weight. I don't need you. And it wasn't like out of the goodness of their heart. It was sort of a condescending, almost gleeful, ooh, you have you obviously you haven't been exercising. And I was like, oh, oh. And I thought, you know, my old voice would be like, oh, roll that back, Nelly. Roll it back. But I didn't. What I thought in my own head, I didn't say it and I wanted to, was, isn't it a shame your opinion doesn't mean anything to me? It doesn't hold value to me. You are nothing in my world. It's not something I needed to express because I believed it, at least in my head. I don't need somebody else to tell me those kinds of things, right? I either acknowledge that, you know what, I know I've become a little extra fluffy. I'm calling it my winter coat. And yes, I'm exercising. Yes, I've been eating better. Um, but I was doing those things before this person put their 2 cents in. Mind you, this person is the size of a small condo. So, I wanted to say, turn the mirror around, using my words and not reacting and responding. All right, so let me just, I'm going to come back. I went to a Roman Catholic church my whole life. Oh, this is Elizabeth. And when I moved to Florida, there were none of those near me, just regular Catholic. And that was the first time I felt at ease, the first time I understood things. Okay. The father told jokes, and I remember thinking, we're allowed to laugh? I know. Well, in college, so this is where the Catholic priests really put the nail in the coffin for me. We were all college students going to church on a Sunday morning. We showed up in sweats and t-shirts and whatever we could. We made it to church. And that priest stood up there and berated us for what we were wearing. And I thought, shame on you. Shame on you. We're here. You hardly have any freaking parishioners in this church. I never went back. I did a few on college campus and then I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I walked away. And I was walking away anyway because of some of the baloney they were spewing. But that to me was like, you're missing the point. You know, you speak to the least of us. We got our asses out of bed and we came to church, not because our parents made us. We wanted to come to church. So let's see. Mish says, my whole life I have been belittling myself, always becoming less than to allow others to feel more competent. I don't know when that started, but I'm tired of living my life and destroying who I am. Amen, sister. And I'm here for you. And that can be fun. I agree, Richard. We're going to watch her kick ass and take names. So you go, girl. And Ben's responding by saying, I suspect that happened in the first or maybe the second grade. Could have been something small, like a teacher calling you up to the board or something like that. The look of false concern on their face. Yeah, it is hard, Ben. So it is hard to say when this happened, right? What I would say is it doesn't matter anymore when it happened. It's what we do now with the information that we have, with the knowledge that we have. Hi, handsome boy. Do you see this handsome boy? He's like, oh, he had such a rough day. Playing in the snow, getting their paws all cold. And then Mish says, I'll be who you want me to be to everyone, strangers even, although even when I played the part perfectly, they didn't know who they wanted me to be either. Right. I think we just need to, and that's part of what we're having a conversation about. Because it's not your truth. It might be your parents' truth. It might be aunts, uncles, sisters, brother, teacher, boss. And so now it's kind of like, you know what? That's not my truth. I'm not available for that conversation anymore. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I might think about what you're saying, but here's what's true for me. When we stop performing the role that was assigned to us, right, Mish? When we stop performing and acting for everybody else around us, all of a sudden we're rooted in our own truth. And by the way, people will follow you. You already have a commanding presence. So imagine what will happen as you reclaim your voice, right? Most of our friendships thrive on honesty, at least in my opinion. And, you know, I'm blessed to say to a lot of the people that are in my life, and again, you don't have to have an army. You only have to have one or two ride or dies. You know, I love you, but I don't have, you know, the capacity right now for more discussion. I just need you, please, dear one, to listen to me. And one of the things that I've gotten better at doing now than ever in my conversations with people is, do you want me to listen or do you want me to respond? Because some people just want me to listen to them regurgitate everything that's going on. They don't want my 2 cents because they probably know what's going to come, but they need to get it off and they need to vent. And then there are times where it's like, well, do you want to discuss? I didn't used to do that. I was like a bull in a china shop, like, okay, you're telling me everything you need to know. This is what you should do, Mish. You should do this. You should do, and tell them to go jump off a bridge. That's not helpful. And that's not really hearing where you're coming from. So now you have two people, that the one that dumped on you that you're trying to tell your friend, And then the other one's coming in, well, let me tell you what you should do. Like, yeah, I don't think so. You know? So, and that happens in work. And I used to admire, there was a couple of people I worked with later in my life. I admired how in a meeting they would say, yeah, I disagree with that. Now they had the facts and they had the ability to articulate what they were communicating. Partly for me, often I was thrown in, the deep end and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing and I'm swimming here and I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I'll just go with it. I also had, for most of my life, some fantastic bosses that helped me grow and didn't belittle me. And then towards the end of my life, that didn't end up being true. But no, end of my professional life. That was a Freudian slip, right? And it's kind of like at some point we have to say, you know what? This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I know. Instead of operating out of fear or rejection or the lack of self respect or even confidence, because sometimes I really knew what the hell I was talking about. And I allowed others telling me I didn't know what I was talking about to influence my actions. And then I became paralyzed and couldn't do diddly squat. So I think some of the things that we need to be aware of is awareness. Notice that moment you silence yourself. You don't always have to respond in that very moment. You have permission to say, and I'm saying this to me, that's very interesting. I'd like to think about that before I respond to you. And then getting better at saying, this is my truth. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm not telling you to change your mind. This is my truth. And by the way, everybody, it's my responsibility to say, no, that's not mine. That's your stuff. You keep it. It doesn't have to be someone else's expectation. And if we live in that, then we need to pedal backwards. And that would be my message to me, right? It's like in the old days, I can't win. I couldn't win with my dad and telling him what I wanted. Well, now, sure, I can win, but what does winning really mean to me? And for me, it's valuing me. I am worthy of my voice, of my opinion, of my perception of me. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to win any contests. I don't want to win any. I don't want to compete. Those days are over for me. And I think I'm grateful for that. And maybe that's what that hard event had to teach me, was to slow down and listen to my own damn voice and have faith in it. And you don't have to surround yourself with a million voices and people. You only have to surround yourself with just enough that you're connected to it. All right, hold on. I see the chat going a little bit wild over here. So let me catch up to you peoples. What's everyone talking about? Yeah, Mish is a leader, not one who learned to be, but is a natural one. Oh, amen. You are. She says, and that's the part that scares you. Do not follow me. Oh, well, if we get lost, we have flashlights and we have GPS now. We can all learn how to be the hero in our own stories. The one many of us have unconsciously been watching for a long time. Yes. Yeah, meditate on that, Elizabeth. I love this idea and I love these discussions because, are you using your own voice? That's the question I posed. So I'm asking, is this something that you guys, do you listen to your own voice? Karen says, I have tended to be a reactionary in my life, so have learned to take a beat and step back before responding, if I respond at all. That's one of the things that Reiki taught me, by the way, was not don't react. Step back and respond. And if you needed to breathe a few times, right? And do that a couple of times, it calms your nervous system. Your brain's like, okay, I'm in control. I wasn't in control, now I'm in control, you know? So I think that's part of it is we have to roll it back. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I don't play the one on YouTube either. This is just my interpretation. It's my experience, it's my studies that I have been working on because I do want to feel like I'm in control. And I don't want to be in a position where my anxiety overtakes my life and, my little artery opens up again and you know, we don't want to go back down that path. Ben says, that's our society trying to program us with tweets and whatnot, feeling we have to respond instantly. Yep, that is absolutely true. Was it Chase Hughes who said that is how we take our power back? I don't know, but I'll go back and read it because I've been following Chase now since Ben introduced me. None of us could stand up to Dad. It was never, ever a conversation. Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think I would encourage young people. Don't stand up to your parents. You don't have to. And partly when they're yapping at you, say, thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. That's I'll take that under advisement. Let me think about that. Instead of saying, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Walk out of the room. That's not going to get you anything either. That's not going to be a good response from a parent by us responding back agitated and aggravated and frustrated and hurt that they're not listening. Listen to me. They're not going to listen to you. They can't. Not if you present it that way. Over the years, there were times where I was like, Dad, you had such a good idea about doing X, Y, and Z. It was my idea. I had to convince him it was his idea because otherwise we would go like 30 rounds. And I was like, I don't have the energy for this today. So give him the win because it makes him feel good. And I think that's part of it. I think my dad, he didn't go to college. He was a butcher. I never looked down on him ever for being a butcher. And he ended up owning his own Italian deli. There's no shade in that. I was very proud of him. This was a man who grew up really dirt poor. So, but he so wanted to be an influence. And, I would say, but Dad, you don't understand. And that's where my flaw was because I didn't have the tools to say, let me think about that, Dad. I'll get back to you. You know what I mean? It was always, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not in the real world. You're not in college. You're not in the professional world. Then you diminish that person. So you're never going to get anywhere by making someone else feel less. Nobody wins. You don't win. Yeah, Bonnie says yes to respond, not react. Yeah, instant gratification. I just want to stand beside my friends and the bunch of us and be the change that the world needs to see. And that's what we're doing. That's part of the reason why we have this community. I don't think my dad knew deep down, Karen, because the way that I phrased it, I was using his words. I just twisted it a little bit. I couldn't do it with everything, but there were certain instances and situations where I could say, Dad, we talked about that. You had a really great idea. I think it's a great idea that we do this. And usually it was around the garden. It was around something that had nothing to do with my job or my house. It was stuff that he was making me crazy about. Sorry, I gotta get comfy here. And we would fight. We really had disagreements. And he was always telling me I didn't know what I was doing. It's like, but my brothers, by the way, he would do something similar, but he had a different respect for the boys than he did for me. And that was hard to witness, because, well, they're boys and they can lift those bags of mulch and they can carry those bricks. I'm like, I would say to him, who do you think's doing that at my house? I'm doing it. So there was always something not measuring up, but the voice became my voice. And I think the only time deep down where my father knew they were my words when it was health related. And upon the advice of my brother, he's like, he's a grown ass man. He's got a wife. Let them make the decisions. And you need to shut the fuck up, basically. And he was right. Sometimes when we know the right thing, we really can't convince someone else that it's the right thing. Finding alternative ways of communicating, responding, listening. My dad just wanted to be heard that he was in pain and he was suffering. That's what he wanted me to know. He didn't want me to tell him to go and talk to the doctor and ask him all these litanies of questions that I had. He just wanted to complain. You know what? He had the right to do that. And I just sat back towards the end and I was like, you know what? He just wants to kvetch. He just wants to complain. He just wants to cry. He just, he's scared. And in his macho way, this is the way he's handling it. So one of the things that I want to encourage you when you're in these situations is to, whether you put your hands on your chest or on your belly and you just take a slow breath and you ask yourself, what truth wants to be spoken right now? What do I want to say? Let your body help you answer before the fear kicks in. The fear of rejection, the fear of what if my opinion isn't blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'd ask you is to pause a second and just say, self, what's the truth that I want to communicate to the people here? Kind of like the person who told me that I was getting chunky. I was like, thanks for the info. I don't need, for me to call names and go at that person. It might make me feel bitter for half a second. I'm the kind of person that I will be guilty and I will feel terrible for weeks. So, I have to know that. I also have to know my voice is grounding, right? And my truth is my home. It's who I'm becoming. And yeah, it's not always perfect and it's not always educated, but I'm learning before I speak and before I contradict to do my work. Right? So I know we're coming up on time. I'm sorry, Wigglebutt. I love these little chuckleheads. Nobody will understand another unless they have lived experience, period, which is where connection can do so much. Open-mindedness, looking through another person's lens. Yes. And that can only happen if we're willing to listen more than responding. And then Elizabeth says, I started my daily journaling practice last month, and every day it gets easier and easier to dig within myself for the truth. And now I can pick up on it so much faster. Amen, sister. I think that's why I started the journaling prompts for myself, and I'm sharing it because, look, until someone's walked a mile in my shoes, you don't get to tell me how to tie my shoes, right? That came off of one of those Facebook little card things, and I shared that, and that was one of my journaling prompts for everybody. It's so important for us to be truthful with ourselves because we lie to ourselves all the time, and it might not be a lie in that sense. It's we tell ourselves what we think we want to hear. it's for me, it's I have to look in the mirror. Is that something I really want to say? Is that something I really want to do? Is that something that's true to me? And if it's not, I can't answer yes, shut up. Shut the front door, right? Just be quiet and be still. And that's the truth that we have to carry as people, as friends, as a community. That's why I love this community. I love watching all of you with your different channels. We learn from each other, and I get to hone what my truth is, because not everything's going to resonate with me, and it doesn't have to. And that's where the permission comes in. It doesn't have to. I wish you could see this dog. He's cracking me up. All right, let's see. Owning our own truth versus carrying around perception of others. Yep. Elizabeth is fun. I get such a kick out of how she says Mr. Bits. Richard says, I think there are many times when we can try to understand what someone else has been through, but we should be aware that our attempt is based on our own projection of ourselves. Amen, brother, and may not even be half. Yes, absolutely, Richard. Thank you for saying that, because that's the truth. Again, we're looking at it through somewhat our own lens, our own eyes. It's not, if we can step into someone else's space for a moment, maybe we're less harsh, maybe we're less critical, less judgmental. Yes, Ben, the world needs more fun people. I think you should start that trend. Why the hell do I need to think I need to speak on that to begin with if it's not mine? Yeah, I hear you, girl. If something rubs you the wrong way, you have some introspection to do. And that's so, Elizabeth, that's so important to acknowledge. And I've talked about this months ago, where someone was really irritating me in my neighborhood, almost hurtful. And I had to sit back and go, why? Why is this person annoying the crap out of me so bad? Now, some of the way that he behaved, some of the words he used echoed how my dad would treat me. So I think that kickstarted it. Then there was an element of verbal abuse, and that triggered me. And I wouldn't doubt, if he wasn't the size of a small condo, he probably would be physically abusive to the people around him. So there was this echo of violence within this person, and I had to make a choice. Do I fake communication for the sake of the neighborhood peace, or do I just recreate boundaries? And I step back, and when he goes off on his vicious, vulgar, violent tears, I back away. I'm gone. I don't even address it. Um, and if he directs it at me, I literally put the hand up. It's a stop sign. And if he comes at me, I'm like, you just have yourself a blessed day. We're done. And I turn around and I walk away. I wouldn't take that from my father. I wouldn't take it from anyone. Don't think because we're neighbors, I'm going to take it from you. And I come in the house and I rant and I rave, and I'm like, who the freak does he think he is? And I have to back down. So yes, you're right. I think that's very important. Okay, hold on. And then I'll let you guys go. Ben said something and Karen wants to participate. So I missed what, the world needs fun people. Okay, Karen. I missed what it was. Thank you. Thank you guys again for being here. This is always so much fun for me to have you guys participate. Richard said, being ready to love and be supportive without judging can build bridges between people who start far apart. And well said, my friend. Um, we love you too, Mish. I can say that globally. For the longest time, I felt the need to squash the humor I have, but now I see the reason why it's coming out so much more than it did. The exercises I'm doing is showing me who I was at 6, and we would love you and we want you to come out and have fun and be sassy and all that fun stuff. Um, so look, one of the things that I want to do in the coming weeks and months is have some of you wonderful creators come on and share with me as well. So, I'll probably reach out through Facebook Messenger and let's see if we can set something up. I think that it's great to have two faces sort of having these conversations. And it doesn't have to be right or wrong, and it's not about anything else, but we also can make it loving and fun. And no, you don't have to show your face if you don't want to. I know who that's directed at. Um, And hey, we're kicking off February next Tuesday. Again, thank you all for being with me last night. Last night was such a Tuesday night. It meant so much to me. Um, and, so cheers to a healthy heart because February is Healthy Heart Month. And I'll talk some about how we can take care of ourselves and our hearts. Um, but also from a health perspective, things to be aware of, things to pay attention to. And these topics are all of that. So, as always, might not get a face with me, bah ha ha, but you'll get a whole lot of mwah. Yes, we will. And that you're exactly who I was referring to. I don't need to see your face to know you're beautiful and wonderful and incredible. So, I just love seeing that. Yes, Bonnie, I love when people have a sense of humor. Look, I think that's how we get along. That's how we lighten the load of our days. So, all right, as always, I send you with love, with light, with healing, with joy, with compassion, sprinkled with laughter and a whole bunch of giggles. So until next time, you guys, may you be blessed. May you have a wonderful weekend. I'm sure I'll see you in other chats. Have a great night. Thank you. You fill my cup.